I know that everything is very bad out in the world. Not everything, but there's like a lot of bad, scary things happening in the world right now. I don't really need to tell you about them. You know that things are like not the best, that we are in what some people are calling like the end times. But enough about that, because even when things are absolutely horrible, the worst, like there's still like little moments of kindness all around us. And I have spent the better part of the last few years trying to notice them, trying to tune myself in to the more okay side of life. And I think sometimes when things are scary or difficult in the world or even in our own lives, it's easy to think like that's all there is and that's all that has ever been and that's all that will ever be. But I also know that in those moments, like small acts of kindness make a huge difference. And when you're doing them, you might not even remember that you ever did them. But when someone does something nice for you, you can remember that forever. And they have no idea that what they did for you was just like the nicest thing and that you needed it so badly. My life is full of examples like this, but enough about me. Let's read some of yours. Love when my phone is like, I don't know you, checks my face and is like, no. It happens when I put on makeup. My phone is like, we don't know who you are.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
My car got stuck in some deep alley snow, and a stranger offered to help get it out and then take another run at it so I could park in the garage. That was kind, but even better was when he returned from taking it for a spin around the block. Thanks, stranger, for not stealing my car or my purse or all my Christmas gifts, which were in the back seat. If you live somewhere snowy, you know that the parking, the trying to get into your garage, the getting stuck in an alley in the snow, and an alley is just like a secret street where maybe no one will ever see you. That is huge. That's a huge thing. The kindest thing a stranger ever did was pay my vet bill when my cat died. I was a poor 20-something-year-old when my 4-year-old cat got suddenly very ill and had to be at the vet overnight. They called me at 7 a.m. to let me know she died, and I stumbled into the parking lot crying, and a man was there. We must have briefly talked before they ushered me in to say goodbye to the carcass of my cat. Descriptive and accurate. It was so nice and such a relief to hear he paid my bill. Years later, I returned the favor for a woman whose dog died when I was at the vet. She didn't have the money to pay, so I sneakily told admin I would cover it for her. I wrote the man a thank you note via the vet so he wouldn't have my contact information, but the vet must have given him the envelope with my address on it because I began getting letters from him. I think he was a 40 to 50-year-old man who hoped this would become a meet cute. This took a turn. This is not a nice story. Who hoped this would become a meet cute story, and instead it became creepy stalkerish. Eventually I moved enough times that he couldn't find my address or realized I wouldn't engage. Does this take away from the kindness part? Maybe. Yeah, it does. You fundamentally did not understand the assignment, but like you delivered something better than the assignment. You delivered a horror story where I was really looking for stories of just random acts of kindness. And it was random acts of kindness followed by random acts of stalking. And, it's a slippery slope, it turns out. My wife and I foster rescue dogs. We took our foster dog on a walk one day with our 3 dogs, so 4 dogs total. One of our neighbors who we had never met was in his yard and saw our foster dog. We waved. He thought she was so cute. Turns out that he and his wife had lost their little dog recently. He ran to tell his wife. They ended up adopting the foster dog. To thank us for being good people caring for animals, he offered to mow our lawn. We live in the country and have a big yard. We're the only people on our street without a riding lawnmower, very expensive, and my wife and I are both disabled, so lawn care is a huge burden for us. We thought he meant he'd ride over one time and mow our lawn for us. He has done the majority of our yard work for over a year now. He says he loves taking care of the girls and riding his mower. He and his wife invited us over for the holidays this year. We are 2 queer disabled people living in a ruby red rural area. I can't believe I said that right on the first try. His kindness truly restored our faith in humanity and community. It means so much. That was beautiful. I was widowed at 26. My kids were 5 and 3, brain cancer. Our first Christmas, I came home to a fully decorated live Christmas tree on my front porch. It had a sign on it that read, "Take me inside, plug me in, water me, Merry Christmas." It's been 17 years. I still have no idea who did that, and it was needed more than they know. My grandfather was the most important person in my life. I was living in Europe when I got the call that he was brought to the hospital and didn't have long. I spoke with the neurosurgeon who said if I hurry, I might get there in time. I booked my flight on the drive to the airport. By the time I got there, the flight was leaving in 50 minutes. When I was questioned by an employee about why I didn't have any luggage for a trip to the USA, I instantly started crying. Her whole demeanor changed. She said, "Oh, honey," and then she ushered me past the line through check-in. She must have radioed ahead because then there was someone waiting to usher me through security, and then there was someone waiting to drive me to my gate. They told the gate attendants, who told the flight attendants, and once we landed in Chicago, where I had an extremely tight layover, there was someone waiting to get me through customs without waiting in the line. I sobbed the whole time, at my fear that I wouldn't make it in time, at the kindness of strangers who treated my emergency like it was hers too. All without me having to say anything more than one sentence to the first woman who was checking passports. I landed, headed directly to the hospital, and had 5 hours with my grandpa before he passed. If one thing would have gone wrong and I didn't make one of those flights, I wouldn't have gotten there in time. I wouldn't have gotten to be there for him. I think about that woman and all those people who came together in the airports when they didn't have to. It wasn't their job. All of the time. I wish they knew how much they changed my life. My grief would be much darker and heavier than it already is if it wasn't for them. I'm wearing long sleeves. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I have goosebumps. That is so beautiful. You literally have no idea how doing one nice little thing can completely change someone's life. But don't pay for somebody's cat cremation and then stalk them. That's a line we can't cross. I was 25 years old and broke in LA. I got a flat tire on the way to work. A AAA driver was behind me, pulled over to help. When asked what I owed, he said, "Merry Christmas." That's so nice. Like, yeah, use that AAA membership. Use it willy-nilly for anybody. I love that. I recently took my boyfriend shopping for clothes for the first time. We went to Old Navy and planned to buy 10 things. The total should have been $300, but as we walked out, she applied her employee discount and it was only $100. She told us on the way out, "It looks like the trip was needed." I love that. I love that the person at Old Navy was like, "Let me help you out. This man needs clothes." That Old Navy employee who did something kind for you also thought that you were doing something kind. She thought you just found a random man on the street and were dressing him. And that's really sweet. And I hope your boyfriend appreciates it. My grandma died and my parents filed for divorce the same month. Okay, timing. Literally just what? I was a wreck driving to work, but decided to give the man on the side of the 405 exit water and a banana. And he told me, "Whatever is bringing you down, it will get better." When I was 17, I worked at KB Toys during Christmas. This was the late 90s. Amazon wasn't a thing yet, so people went to actual stores. Wild, I know. KB Toys. Oh my God. This is going to be a controversial opinion. I think KB Toys was better than Toys R Us. I really do. I think they had a better selection. I think they had a better shopping experience. And I think history will show that I'm correct. My shift was supposed to end at 4 o'clock, but at 4:15, as I'm trying to step away from the register, my boss stops me. In front of a massive line of frazzled holiday shoppers, she tells me I have to stay until the line is gone. Now, as the eldest daughter, the guilt of leaving this mess for someone else was too much, so of course I stayed. Also, when we were younger and working, I did anything my boss asked me to. If my boss was like, "You actually can't take a break," I was like, "Okay, sounds good. I don't need one." But I was on the verge of tears. While checking someone out, the guy leaned in and whispered, "Sorry." Somehow that little moment of kindness helped me pull myself together. Fast forward 20 minutes, the same guy comes back, and this time he has a cinnamon roll from Cinnabon for me with "Merry Christmas" written on the box. I've never forgotten that gesture of kindness. I hope this man is out there somewhere living his absolute best life. He is, okay? Because he didn't then stalk you, or you would have included that in the text. And that is really great and really wonderful. And again, like, you don't have to do like huge, big things for another person. That was such a nice, small thing. He was already at the mall, right? And he was like, "I'm going to come back." In the weeks after my fiance died, I mustered up the energy to go get ice cream at one of our spots. I placed my order at the window and reached for my wallet and found an empty pocket. So relatable. Such a dumb thing, but I got so sad and told her, never mind. I'd walked in without my wallet. The gentleman behind me stepped forward and said it was on him. He couldn't have imagined how much those $4 and ice cream meant in that moment. I have like a silly little hope that the people in there will like see these and be like, "I feel appreciated. I'm glad you appreciated it." I was on the second day of my honeymoon when I found out my husband had been cheating on me. Jaw dropped. I changed my flight to return home immediately. My husband did too. No, I'm leaving you. Okay, if I find out you are cheating on me, it's our honeymoon and I leave, you can't change your flight too. You can't leave with me. This is me leaving. I would have been livid. I would be like, well, now I'm staying. Oh, now I'm staying. Whatever you're doing, I'm doing the opposite. My God. We spent 10 hours traveling together. Me sobbing to myself, him sitting near me in shame. Good, I guess. When we arrived in our home city, we got on a shuttle bus headed toward airport parking. A woman on the bus watched me cry. When we all got off, she came up to me and said, "It seems like you might need a hug." I hugged her. She hugged me. I cried into her shoulder. I needed someone's tenderness so badly that day, but didn't want it from my husband. She offered it to me. I love women. Women are the best. God. When I was leaving Connecticut after my father died and was alone away from my family for the first time since it happened, I was at a tiny local airport and sat at the only bar there just sobbing off and on for hours. There were, of course, delays. A few people came and went and probably thought I was nuts. And after another delay got announced, a flustered woman sat down next to me and said, "Hi." I immediately apologized for being a mess, explaining that my dad had died a few days ago, and she immediately responds by saying, "Please don't apologize. I just cried in the bathroom because my teenage son is a asshole." When I tell you I exploded into laughter, it was genuinely exactly what I needed. And we proceeded to sit and chat for a while before we finally boarded. Like I said, I love women. Currently going through a heartbreaking divorce, domestic violence, 3 little kids. I was financially dependent on him, and my kids and I are losing everything. He's a high earner. Another mom who I don't know reached out through a friend. She's an attorney and 1 year into her own divorce. She is advising me legally for free. And when my brain is mush, as it so often is these days, she is gently pushing me to do the things I need to do. She's literally never met me in person, but wants to help because she knows what it's like. I love women. Women are heroes. Ugh, love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay? Like, I've been there. I'm going to help you through it. Ugh. My 23-year-old son had died in December. The next March, I was overwhelmed as people had stopped coming by and I was feeling very alone. My vacuum breaks. I put out a request to see if anyone has a discount code since they're so dang expensive. Next thing I know, Dyson called because they heard my story and wanted to make things a little better with a gift of the vacuum of my choice. Crying just thinking about this, and it was 9 years ago. It's a privilege to pay this forward any chance I get. Now I am even more Dyson loyal than I ever was. I love that story. It is so easy for brands to do this and like build goodwill. Now I'm like a Dyson stan. I kind of was already, but I love that story. I just moved to New York City for law school. It was August 2017, hot and sticky, and I'd only briefly visited the city once before the move. Classic. I'd ordered a desk from Office Depot way out in Queens, not thinking about how heavy and cumbersome it would be even disassembled in a box. Not actually possible for me to wrangle onto the subway to get back to my Lower East Side apartment as I had planned. I was standing outside Office Depot trying to figure out what to do when a woman pulled up in a van and put on her flashers. "Can you watch my car for a minute? I just need to run in and pick up a couple things for the pastor." She was inside before I could respond. I watched the car as requested, and when she came back out, she thanked me and asked if I needed a ride. Too broke and frazzled to figure out another option, I accepted. As she drove, she told me about her daughter who had just left for college and started giving me all sorts of new to the city advice. Most memorably, she advised me never to talk to strangers. I didn't bother pointing out she was a stranger. When she dropped me off, she had me put her name and number in my phone and told me to call her if I ever needed anything. Even after I moved away from New York City, I kept that entry in my address book as a reminder of human kindness and connection. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa in Queens, we love you. 2001. Whew, we're going back in time. A regional flight into Lincoln, Nebraska was rerouted to land in Sioux City, Iowa, well after midnight because of wind gusts. Gusts is hard to say. Wind gusts is too soft. Wind gusts. Gusts of wind. Wind gusts. Wind gusts. The flight crew assured us once inside the airport there would be a team of people to assist us getting to Lincoln. The airport was literally closed and the flight crew wisely skedaddled. I was standing there with an 8-week-old baby, dehydrated, trying not to cry with no car seat and no idea how I was going to get to Lincoln. A sweet old couple saw me, scooped me into one of the last rental cars available they managed to snag, and drove us 2.5 hours out of their way in the middle of the night in winter weather to drop me and my tiny daughter at my sister-in-law's house. Bert and Roberta Locken, I will never, ever forget this kindness. And neither will I. That is the nicest thing in the world. And the way that people will truly like ignore women with babies and be like, "Oh, not my problem," is bananas. That is exactly what should happen in that situation. Beautiful. I love it. Thank you. Those are all that I have for now, but I know that there are more stories out there and I love getting them. I love sharing them. You don't have to share them, but if you want to, here's the phone number. I know that things are not the best right now. We've got like UFOs and orbs and like drones like floating around. Like, is this the end times? I don't know. Let's not think about that. But even if it is, we're still going to need each other. We are still going to need kindness. We are still connected to each other. Our resilience is dependent on one another, and independence is a myth. So look out for each other, be nice to each other, and I will see you the next time that I make a video, which is as wildly unpredictable for me as it is for you.